The oil in your house. How many of you have already declared that I have absolutely nothing, but in actual fact, you have something small but significant? How many of you don't know what to start, but you know you want to start?
Sometimes we undermine the things that we have, and we undermine the value of the things that we have. Sometimes in life we get to a point where we feel like there's nothing and everything that we have is depleting, and you just feel like you're coming to the end of yourself. And I think that in that moment you also have an opportunity for God to show off in your life.
We look down on ourselves naturally. Like it's hard to see the picture when you're in the frame. That's what they say, and it's the truth.
Yeah.
For me, the problem was that I had a really bad hairline and I didn't have money to braid my hair. That was a problem. And it was a problem of frustration that I solved through head wraps. Once you've solved a frustration or a problem and you solved it for yourself, that could be something that you could possibly solve for other people.
Unless your value is bringing you money, it's a hobby.
Exactly.
You just like to do it.
The oil in your house. How many of you have already declared that I have absolutely nothing, but in actual fact, you have something small but significant? How many of you don't know what to start, but you know you want to start? Today's episode is for you. We're speaking about the oil in your house. We did say to you guys that this is a business podcast, but not any business podcast, but business God's way, okay? And we're picking it up right from scripture.
Yeah. So the scripture we're looking at today essentially is from 2 Kings chapter 4, right? So I'm gonna narrate it a bit because I think I'm a good storyteller when I try
Listen,
to
let's tell the
describe.
story.
So imagine, right? Imagine your husband passes on, right? And you know that your husband is, a man of God. And essentially, you're in a place where they are debt collectors who literally want to take your two children, which is the last thing that you have, right? So this lady essentially walks over to this man of God and says, "Man of God, my husband has passed away, right? And in his passing, his creditors are trying to take my kids, along with him. I need your help, right?" And essentially, this man of God looks at her and says, "Okay, cool, fine. I hear everything you're saying, right? But number one, what do you know? What is it you would like me to do for you, right? And what do you have in your house?" And
I
that's the question we're asking today. Yeah.
genuinely, I think it's so important. Like I love when I read the story to look at her point of desperation, right? And it's so important to just like clarify that like your situation of desperation, the thing that you think disqualifies you, the thing that discourages you, it's actually what puts you in the right position. I think had she not been so desperate, had they not been coming to her kids, she wouldn't have stood up
Yeah.
and gone to seek out help and gone to make something done, because that's really crucial. So if you're at that point, wherever you are, whatever you're dealing with, that's a good position to be in, actually.
Yeah. And to be fair, like I genuinely feel like even in terms of her response, right? Sometimes we undermine the things that we have, and we undermine the value of the things that we have.
Yeah.
Because when he asks her, he says, "What do you have?" Right? And she says, "I don't have anything, but I have some olive oil in my house, essentially, right?" And if you know the history of the olden times, right? Olive oil was valuable. You could use it for cooking, you could use it for hair, for so many things. It was even used as a commodity back then, right?
Yeah.
But in that moment, she saw it as a valuable thing that she needed to consume. Otherwise, if she didn't consume, her and her kids would die of starvation, right? And I think the beauty of this conversation comes in where we sometimes in life we get to a point where we feel like there's nothing and everything that we have is depleting, and you just feel like you're coming to the end of yourself. And I think that in that moment you also have an opportunity for God to show off in your life, for
Yeah.
God to become God, where you come to the end of yourself, right?
Exactly.
And I feel like today, if you're listening to this and you feel like you're at the end of yourself, I want you to change the perspective by speaking about how reframing your situation also gives you an opportunity, right, to tap into abundance.
Mm.
Because that's what we're here for today. We're here to speak about practical ways to reframe what you feel like is you coming to your end as you having an opportunity to start again.
Now, let's take it back here, right?
Yeah.
We're looking at it. She's in a position where she says, I have nothing but a jar of olive oil, right? And it's very clear from even what she's saying that she has already discarded that. She's
Yeah.
already counted that as nothing. In her mind, it does not have any value. There's
Mm.
nothing that it can do to actually help her in the situation. And a lot of us, God, and you look at this even with uh, many points in the Bible, even with Moses, like God asked him, what's in your hand? God does it. Usually it's never external. It's never something that's going to come from outside. It's usually something that you already have, something that's already in your house.
Yeah.
And when we speak out to the oil in your house, we're speaking about the resources, not only the resources, speaking about the knowledge you might have.
The
We're speaking
time.
the time you might have, exactly, the networks you might have, right? We're speaking even to even the pain points and problems that you might be facing.
Yes.
Even something as simple as your story and history,
Sure.
that could be the oil in your house.
Mm.
Because if you look at really truly successful people,
Yeah.
it's always rooted in it's what they went through.
Yeah.
It's deep in, like there's little crumbles and seeds that was like, okay, actually we should have seen this coming, because there's a trail.
Yeah.
It doesn't just boom out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's always something that they already possessed in them, an
Mm.
experience that pushed them over.
Sure.
It's something that is already in your house.
Mm.
And what we want you to look into today is to actually just understand the fact that it's not going to come out of nowhere.
It won't.
What you need to do is to actually now reflect in yourself. Ask the question that the prophet asked: what do you have in your house? And I think change the posture, right?
Mm.
Because how she responded is that I have nothing but the jar of oil.
Yeah.
Now you need to change your posture, because now you know. We've had this conversation, we're speaking, and in fact, that's why scripture is so important, because it opens up and reveals.
Mm.
You've experienced, you have revelation, you know that there is no such thing as a little jar of oil.
Yeah.
That can actually turn into abundance.
Yeah.
God can bless and multiply it. So stop disqualifying the little things that you have, and actually really think deeply about what is it that you could already have, that you could already know, that could actually be valuable.
Also, I think stop disqualifying yourself. Stop disqualifying who you are, right?
Yeah.
Because it's easy to be like, okay, cool. I came from a background that looks like 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
right? I've seen so many people start things and fail things, right?
Yeah.
And therefore, it's a conversation of, I might not necessarily have much value to bring, right? Or even if it is valuable, right? It's a conversation of, because it's me, like what
Yeah.
could it amount to,
Yeah.
right? And I think that when we speak about, value, and I think we need to break it down and make it as practical as possible, right? If we take it back to, if I make a practical example, I've done a lot of things, y'all.
So many things.
There was a time in my life when I was in varsity, and as you all know, we were very broke. And then one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to become a makeup artist. And I remember I told everybody this, right?
Yeah.
School was varumi, and like, it's not like, as I've said before, right? I'm not naturally smart. I just have systems in place to get what I need to get done, right?
Yeah.
So, if we make it practical in that time, right? I needed money. I needed to do something about it. And I remembered I used to do a lot of creative makeup, on myself and all of that stuff, right? And I knew that people used to speak about makeup artists being expensive, and there are students around me, right?
Yeah.
And in that moment, I did feel a sense of, sure, like it's I'm just a person, like I'm not a makeup artist, right?
Yeah.
So who would want to pay for this? And I looked down on it until one day we just decided, you know what, we are literally gonna call. I think we posted in the res group chat,
Yeah.
right? We posted in the res group chat, and we're like, okay, cool, we're giving away 4 face beats for free on Saturday, right?
We did a little poster as well.
Yes, I did a little poster. Yes, I
Yeah.
remember that, right?
Yeah.
And I posted it, and I was so embarrassed because I knew that, oh my gosh, imagine somebody sees me posting this, like it's so embarrassing, right? And I sent also a couple of pictures that I've done on myself.
Yeah.
And weirdly, so many people texted that evening, like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, we want to do our makeup, want to do our makeup, right?
Yeah.
And my biggest fear was, ish, when these women come, or rather these girls at the time, when they come and they do their face fit, maybe they won't like it. Maybe, it's a thing of they're gonna go home and wash it off, right?
Yeah.
And so when they came to the dorm room that Saturday, I started doing the first one's makeup, right? The girl was so happy and all of that stuff. It boosted my confidence a little bit. But now the whole day I was stressing that, what if it goes and it melts away and all of that stuff, right? All these little things were running through my mind.
My chance.
Yes, I was. I won't even lie. Because my chat is also, it's not like I went to buy new makeup and all of
Yeah.
that stuff, right? It was literally a conversation of, I was like, okay, what do I have? I know I have makeup, and I know I like to do makeup on myself. So
Yeah.
let's try it out,
Yeah.
And from that day, I remember the makeup thing really kicked off. Like, it even went to people outside of varsity who would essentially reach out and for makeup. And I think the reason I'm sharing this, right, is because sometimes we downplay the things that we're capable of doing, right? And it's a conversation of, I said I was not a makeup artist, so I couldn't do it, right? But the question is, what is a makeup artist? A makeup artist is somebody who does makeup, period. Could I do makeup? Yes, but I discarded it because it's a conversation of, I'm not seeing what's inside my house. I'm not seeing the value that I bring to the table. I'm not seeing it as valuable for other people. So it speaks to reframing. Even when we spoke about this model that we use, right?
Yeah.
Called the Jahari window, right? So the Jahari window, essentially, it speaks about how other people see you and how you see yourself as well, right? And in this context, we're going to utilize it in terms of how to see what's inside your house, right? And this time, the house is you. You are the house. How do you actually assess what value that you bring, right? And the self that you are aware of, right? It speaks about how, for example, I, Liz, right? These things I know about myself, right? And these things that Tamia knows about me, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of things. In this case, we'll use the makeup artistry, right? So it's a thing of, we all know. So I understand this is some oil that I have in my house that I can essentially, hopefully, translate into value one day, right? But there are certain things that, Tamia, you as a person know about me that I don't know about myself, right? And these things, they're still so valuable. But many a times we're just not self-aware about the value that we bring, either because we downplayed, self-esteem issues, hoping that it looks a specific, or rather knowing that it looks a specific way and you don't fit into that category, right?
Yeah.
And then there's things that other people don't know about us, and we don't know about ourselves as well, right? And so those are like our hidden talents that you'll probably find out about in the next 20 years or whatever the case is, right? And then finally, it's a conversation of value that you can bring, but other people don't know, right? So, and the reason I'm sharing this is because we need to be practical about what we have in our homes, right? Because if we're saying this is a business podcast, and we're giving you all these fluff things, but we're not telling you how to translate your value, right, into something that is monetizable, right? It's fluff, right? Because what I always say is, unless your value is bringing you money, it's a hobby.
Exactly.
You just like to do it, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's a conversation we need to have for, I was about to say unravel us, for the vessels, guys. In terms of the practicalizing of how to translate your value into something that could potentially, bring you into abundance.
I love that. I love how you mentioned the Jahari model, right? Because
Yeah.
in the Jahari model, it's like you want to get away from the point where either you know and nobody knows, or
Yes.
you don't know and nobody knows either,
Yes.
right? Like the sweet spot, the goal is to get to the point where you know what your value is, and other people as well also know what your value is. And this speaks to the context of even like how we look down on ourselves naturally. Like it's hard to see the picture when you're in the frame. That's what they say, and it's the truth. It's hard to see anything good in yourself a lot of the times. So it's so crucial that you actually just like interview the people around you, actually ask around, like ask questions like, what do you think I'm good at? And like actually ask the people you're asking to really like think deeply and give you valuable answers, right? And once you've gotten to that point and like you've sort of analyzed and taken notes, because even with myself, I'm thinking as you're speaking, uh the oil that was in my house was the fact that I had this love and obsession over head wraps, and at some point it became an understanding for it. Because I'm even thinking back, I remember people at my race would come to me for me to tie dukes on them. There's this day this girl had an event and she came to my house and I tied a duke for her, and it was a question that I would get every single time I wore my duke to school or whatever. People always come to me like, where do you buy them, how do you tie them? Like that to me like was sort of like other people recognizing a value that I didn't yet see.
Yeah.
It only took people asking questions and people coming to me, and the reason why I even was able to recognize that was because I knew I wanted to entrepreneur, but I couldn't figure out what I wanted to entrepreneur in.
Yeah.
And it was only when I started doing my research that I learned to view things such a different kind of specific kind of way, because it really is all about perspective here. It's about literally being strategic and even objective, because naturally we have a bias to be negative and look down on ourselves. So in order for you to actually be objective, it's a point of now like look from the outside, like actually get out of yourself and pretend to be looking in from the outside. And because I did that, that's when I actually realized that actually like I think a lot of people have interest in head wraps because a lot of people ask. And it's something that I thought was invaluable to me, because I'm just like, it's just Idugu. But as soon as people be like, okay, where do you buy them? I'd like to buy, right? That's when I actually say, okay, that it's actually something that's valuable to somebody else, right? So it's so important to actually ask the questions. And sometimes I don't even think you need to get to the point of asking. Analyze, literally think. Like if you think back to like, okay, what conversations have I had? What are things that people already come to me for me to solve? Like, or what is a problem that I've figured out for myself? For me, the problem was that I had a really bad hairline and I didn't have money to braid my hair. That was a problem. And it was a problem of frustration that I solved through head wraps. Once you've solved a frustration or a problem and you've solved it for yourself, that could be something that you could possibly solve for other people. That could be the oil in your house.
You know what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Is actually what is your competitive advantage.
Exactly.
You know, it's a conversation of what do I bring to the table that comes so naturally for me and I don't have to think too much about it, that somebody else, it might not come so naturally for them, right?
Yeah.
I remember there was this girl, right, in varsity. I still think she needs to be a baker. This girl's wasting her time. Yes.
Yeah.
She is so good at baking and making things, right? And it comes so naturally for her, right? And it's a conversation of if she had to start now and literally essentially share this with the world, I don't think anybody would shy away from that, if I'm being quite honest, right? And I think the thing about competitive your competitive edge or your competitive advantage, you tend to look down on such things because you feel like, it's not really a big thing.
Yeah.
It's not a big thing to you, but somebody else is willing to pay for that value, right? And if you do feel like there is no competitive advantage that you bring forth, and I think that's what Tamia is speaking about, the importance of either introspection or extrospection, in the sense that if you don't know, you actually need to start asking people, and asking people like, okay, like what? And asking people, what do you think I'm good at? It's such an awkward question. Like, I'm not going to lie to you, right? But remember, ask it from the lens of what you're seeking, whether you get the response that you want or not, right? And I think that the beauty about a competitive advantage is that you really hold that resource.
Like,
and unless you tap into it, it's not going to do anything for you.
I love it. Like, I think another way to frame it is an unfair advantage, right? I love the idea that you just spoke about the cakes, right? What it just brought into my mind is what usually stops a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
people think that the idea has to be new and revolutionary.
Yeah.
A lot of people, the reason why they always say, I have nothing, is because you have it in your mind that your idea has to be groundbreaking and new and something that nobody's ever done before. And you'll
Yes.
have someone say, like, what good is it to bake amakeke because everybody does it? There's so
Yeah.
many people, like the market is saturated, right?
Mm.
But like, I'm in the fashion industry,
Mm.
right? And it is very much saturated, believe me.
Yeah.
But like, we are still in abundance. We
Yeah.
flourish. And it's because of a very important thing as such as branding.
Yeah.
I think, and this is a conversation on its own that we're gonna have at some point, but understand that your idea, the oil in your house, doesn't have to be revolutionary
It
or
doesn't.
special or unique.
Mm.
You can make it revolutionary and special and unique in the way that you brand it, in the way that you package it. That's where now you go in and like dive deep into now actually, once you see this little advantage, you don't just now take the oil, right, as is, like there are steps to it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go ahead of ourselves and now start speaking about the gathering of vessels, which is the next
Like,
part in
yeah.
scripture. But like, tune into next week's episode and the weeks coming ahead, because we're gonna dive deep into the branding, we're gonna dive deep into the research, and
Yeah.
that's really crucial. But this is the foundational part, and do not allow this idea of the fact that everybody's already doing it. Don't let that be what stops you. I remember there's this guy, his name was Kat, that we met in varsity. I'll never forget this.
Mm.
He said, sometimes being unique is doing something anyway, even if other people are doing it.
Mm.
Like, like, if you want to wear that orange dress, and if you want to wear that orange
And
dress,
everyone is wearing
and
that.
everyone is
Yeah.
wearing the orange dress, sometimes being your authentic self is wearing the orange dress, and simply because it's on you,
Mm.
and you're gonna wear it your way, and
Yeah.
it's gonna look good on you.
Yeah.
That's you being you. That's you being authentic.
Mm.
If you try and like withhold back from something that you're good at, something that you have an unfair advantage in, just because other people are already doing it, that's you literally taking the olive oil and saying it's nothing.
Mm. And I really like what you're saying, right? Because I believe my unfair advantage is low-key childish, but anyway. So with me, ne, I'm easily peer pressured.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I promise you,
And that's your unfair
it
advantage.
literally is, right? So I'm easily peer pressured,
Mm.
and I can learn fast. Like I learn at rapid
You're
rates.
like a
Right?
sponge. You just
Yeah,
consume.
I really am. Like I really describe myself as that. Like I literally go, and it's done.
Yeah.
Right? So what happens, right, is that in terms of even my career growth and everything, right, I needed to guard what my unfair advantage was, right? Because I know that I easily absorb everything that I'm around, right? So I've been very cautious of the type of environments I'm in. I've been very cautious of the type of information that I expose myself into, right? Because I learn, guys. Like I can't even lie to you at the, at the level at which I learn. And so if I bring it back even to like all the things that we've worked on and all the things that we've built, right? I in the beginning used to be very cautious essentially in terms of, what I the type of positions I put myself in, right? Because I learned so fast, I was cautious. I would say maybe I'm learning at a superficial level, and it made me very shy, right? But then what I did do over time, right, was actually sit down and say that, guys, this is my superpower, right? And in saying that it was my superpower, that's how I had the courage to say, okay, study further. That's how I had the courage to say, okay, maybe this is not the opportunity for me. Maybe I need to wait and build into what I believe I want to get into, right? And so it's a conversation of, even in terms of what you see your oil as, navigating what the outcome of it is very important, right? And I think that's what we speak about it a lot. It goes back into what the vision is for your oil, right? So you can easily learn that, okay, cool, I can bake, I'm good at fashion and all of that stuff, right? But what does it mean for you, right? And it's important to define what it means for you in order for you to translate what that value is for other people, right? So for me, I am a sponge, right? But I am a sponge who's going to, like I said in the previous episode, make sense out of your chaos. Because I can easily come into there, learn fast what's happening, and let's sort it out, right? Moving forward. But if you get to a point whereby the skill or the oil in itself is your, it's your advantage, and that's all it is, you're not making sense of it, you're not working towards making it excellent, you're not doing the introspection, you're not working on it, you're not growing it, you're not fine-tuning it into what it needs to be, it becomes chaos. So that's why you find a lot of people, they'll be like, in school, for example, people be like, no, I'm a fast learner, I'll cram, and all of that stuff, right? You'll find that you probably are, but you're not fine tuning it and you're not using it to its highest, possibility. Right. Unless you work towards refining your oil into excellence, it means no, it doesn't bring value to the people around you, right? And I think that when you just bring it back towards the scripture that we're working through, right? So mind you, this lady said that I don't have anything, just but a little oil in my, in my house, right? And I think I like how essentially, long story short, he says that no, that oil will be enough. Gather vessels, right? I really love how Tamia explains this part. So I'm gonna hand over to you. Yeah.
Definitely. So in the scripture he gives instructions, right? He says go and gather vessels, and pay attention here. He actually says as many as you can. So he says go out to your neighbors and gather as many vessels as you can. Don't gather just a few. And I think in this scripture, how I interpret the vessels, it's knowledge, it's research. You see, the little oil in a house would have been nothing but little oil had she not gathered enough vessels. And you'll see that what she goes, yeah, and she gathers all these vessels. And you gathering all these vessels, because he literally says, go to all your neighbors. I am saying to you, go on the internet. Go ask your neighbors, ask your friends. Literally gather vessels. Get as much knowledge as you can. Get knowledge about possibly even you in the stage of figuring out what is valuable. Is you gathering vessels, you going out and asking somebody else, like, what do you think I'm good at? That's you gathering a vessel. That's you possibly potentially turning this thing that you didn't even know existed and bringing it out in the open, and now you're aware of it. You gathering vessels is you now doing market research and actually taking the time to dive deep and say, it's actually like, is this thing that I think I'm good at, is it something that people actually desire? And usually, a lot of the times, let me tell you something, guys, it's not necessarily that the thing is not desirable. You just need to frame it, and package it in a way that makes it desirable for other people, right? So once you figured out that, okay, like I figured out that, okay, I am good with head wraps. I did research, I gathered vessels, and through gathering the vessels and understanding who my market is and studying and like researching about marketing and researching things, only then did my very little useless thing, which was just this desire for head wraps, grow and expand into something that could actually be valuable when I gathered the vessels. Because in the scripture it says that like she began to pour, right? And only when the vessels finished did the oil cease. It's like the oil will literally be equated to your vessels. So that means your blessing, your value, your asset, right, is limited to what you know. And it's the truth. Once you where your knowledge caps is where your blessing ends. Exactly, is where your blessing ends. Which is why, like, I even say, like, every time I read that scripture and I see it, like they say when the vessel stopped, if I were her, I would have told my children, go get more vessels.
I'm calling my family,
Exactly.
guys.
Exactly. Like, I wouldn't have stopped gathering the vessels because of this understanding that the more vessels I have, the more the oil will pour out.
And what you're saying, I agree with it on a spiritual level. Because number one, keyword is as much as you can. As much as you can, to your ability, to your understanding, to your knowledge, right? And people do perish because of lack of knowledge, right? Because another thing is sometimes what you see as valuable, right? You would find that the more you learn, the more you read business books, the more you read, watch the right podcasts, the more you ask people about these things, the more you also learn about what your value is, right? So it's a thing of, oh, I can knit. What are people
Mm.
actually doing in terms of the knitting industry?
Mm.
You will find that there is so much. Because one thing I've learned about industries, there's so many industries out there, guys. People are doing such crazy and lovely things, right? And so I think you need to widen yourself and open yourself to consuming. Be a me, be a sponge, guys. It's time
Literally.
to be a
It's the only
sponge.
way to survive.
Yeah.
It's literally the only way
And
to survive.
I think that so the way people gather knowledge is very differently, right?
Mm.
So there are people who can open a book and they're happy to open a book.
Yeah.
If you can't open a book, audio books is your friend, darling.
Yeah.
If you can't, there are literally people who out here who are narrating, books on YouTube and so forth with like, the like you
Even
have no
podcasts. You can learn
excuse.
so much from like a random podcast.
Yeah.
Like literally, there's
Yeah.
no excuse.
Yeah.
But okay, let's dial it back down. Okay. What are we unraveling in this episode?
Mm.
I know that I haven't learned from everything we spoke about. I have unraveled that it's so crucial to not undermine what you already have.
Mm.
What have you unraveled?
I think I've unraveled in this session that my blessing my blessing ends where my knowledge ends. So I need to be intentional about the knowledge that I acquire
Mm,
in order to tap into abundance. Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So we literally gave you guys
The Jahari.
the Johari model, right? And the thing about it is that like the Johari model is actually like it's a real thing, right?
Yeah, there's like literally coaches around the world use it.
Like it's actually something so valuable and it's so crucial that you don't undermine it and you take it really seriously. We are giving you guys homework.
Yeah.
Sishilo, what did we say? It's like we don't want people who are just gonna come here and then you listen and then you get motivated. Spuna more motivation. We want people who actually take action. So we're giving you guys homework. Down in the description we've linked sort of like a page where we've mapped out the Jahari model and we've put in a series of reflection questions that you can use to identify what the oil in your house could possibly be. What could be your unfair advantage? What could be the thing that maybe you are still looking down on? And even if you think you've already figured it out, this will be useful for you because it could help you refine. It could help you figure out the next steps to possibly gathering the vessels, which is something we're going to dive really deep into next week and get into the doing part. I think this series, like this episode, was like mainly like the foundational, right?
Of a three-part series.
Of a three-part series. Exactly. It's a three-part series called the oil on your house. In this episode we dived into the very beginning, right? Which is just you analyzing, you're looking into a house, seeing what is in it. Going forward, we're gonna now talk about how do you then begin.
Yeah.
How do you take the first steps? How do you go from this useless oil that you now have discovered that is useful, the pouring part, in order for the blessings to actually come in? And again, it will be very practical. We're going to have proper models for you. And at the end of it, we're going to have a homework. And this homework is meant to open up your eyes. This homework is meant to get you actually working and moving. So be sure to not miss it. But I think that's it for today's episode.
And on that note, remember that God has poured out abundantly and we are the vessels.
So we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.